Hi everybody, it's Miss Lorenz. I'm going to talk to you about, this is lesson 1.2, and this is about dividing whole numbers and decimals. So in the last lesson we looked at multiplying decimals and adding and subtracting them. Now we're going to talk about dividing them. So we're going to start with this problem, and then we'll go through some other examples before I give you the assignment. So make sure that you have your math notebook out and that you're taking some notes, writing some things down so that you are ready to independently work on the practice problems. All right, in this first one, I really like these reasoning problems because they give us a chance to use just some logical reasoning rather than a procedural technique. And so in this case, we have this bill from a restaurant, and we know that there was a certain number of people that went and that every person paid $6.75. The total was $27, and we have to figure out how many people went to the restaurant. And so when I think of this problem, I think, all right, well, there was $27 spent, and we divided that 27 by a certain number of people. Notice I'm using a fraction bar for division, and that equals $6.75 a person, right? Well, we're going to get to this. If this looks foreign to you, that's okay. We're going to get to that, but let's use reasoning. Let's use logical reasoning. So we know that if one person spent $6.75, then the bill would have to be $6.75. It's not. The bill's 27. So let's double that. And if we double that, we get $13.50. So that would be for two people, right? Two people would, if two people went to lunch, it would have been $13.50. So I know that $13.50 doubled is 27. So I know that 2 doubled has to be 4 people. All right. So notice I did not apply any type of procedure here. I just used logical reasoning. The last one, suppose $7 was added to the bill for dessert that everybody shared. How much more does each person have to pay? Well, we know that it's 4 people, so we're going to take $7 divided by 4. Again, notice I'm using a fraction bar. I want you to equate this idea of a fraction as a division problem. So 7/4, or 7 divided by 4. And if I turn that into a mixed number, I get 1 3/4. And I know that 1 3/4 in dollars and cents is $1.75. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about some of these dividing by whole numbers. And so in this case, we have this structure. We're basically reviewing this idea of long division. Here's what I want to caution you about, and that's right here. And so I'm hoping that you go through this whole page and you read it through, but here's what I want to caution you about. The remainder. We're not often going to use a remainder, especially in middle school. What we do now in middle school is we make sense of the remainder. And so in this case, when we divide 863 by 18, we end up with 47 with basically 17 leftovers. 17 leftovers is almost enough to make one more group, right? Because this is essentially asking us how many groups of 18 are in 863. And so I would want you to realize that and think of this as 863 divided by 18 is 47 and 17 18ths of another group. That's what your remainder means. And I always want you to realize, what does that remainder mean? In this case, it means 17 18ths of another group. All right, I want you to read this over. When we're talking about compatible numbers, I want you to go back to the notes that we've taken before during one of our remote lessons, and we talked about what compatible numbers are. And if you can't remember, you can go back to the review page for topic 1, and it talks about what compatible numbers are. Essentially are nice numbers that we're using to make some decisions. All right. let's take a look at this Try Me problem together. So we have an electronics company, and it has 2,610 smartphones, and they in a pack, and each pack holds 9 smartphones. So we're trying to figure out how many boxes we can fill. Well, I know that 9 won't go into 2, but it will go into 26. 2 times, it doesn't go in 3 times, but close, because that would be 27. 2 times 9 is 18, and then we subtract, and we're left with 8 here. Remember, we bring down the 1, and then we ask ourselves how many groups of 9 are in 81. We know that that's 9, because we know that 9 times 9 is 81. And then when we subtract, we get 0. Then we bring down that 0. And then we ask ourselves how many groups of 9 are in 0. Well, there are no groups of 9 in 0. And 0 times 9 is 0. We have to make sure we complete that out if we end up with a 0. And so we know that we could fill 290 boxes. We could double check that. We could say 290 boxes times 9 smartphones per box. And when we multiply 290 times 9, we get 2,610. All right, let's go ahead and look at the last bit here. Okay, this time I'm going to skip this part about dividing with whole numbers. You can read this yourself. This should be a bit of a review for you, but let's talk about dividing decimals. What's important about dividing decimals is that you understand that the case is a little different, and we want to basically acknowledge that we have a decimal in the divisor, and whatever we do to get rid of that decimal, we have to do to the dividend as well. All right, so let me show you what I mean. If we're dividing $4.20 by $1.40, then we're trying to figure out how many groups of $1.40, or 1 4/10, are in $4.20, or 4 2/10. That's what we're trying to figure out. And if we set this up in our long division form, it's going to look like this. How many groups of $1.40 are in $4.20? Now, before we divide, we're going to basically get rid of this decimal. Now, remember when we were multiplying by decimals, when we move a decimal to the right, sort of to eliminate it, we are multiplying by 100, right? Well, in this case, 100. Multiply by 10, multiply by 10, multiply by 10, multiply by 10. And so we're going to go ahead and put the decimal up here, because if we multiply the divisor by 10, we have to multiply this dividend by 10 as well. So now we're looking at how many groups of 140 are in 420. But I want you to notice where the decimal is. We moved it to here, and now I moved it straight up because I want to always remember where that decimal is located. I know that if I multiply 140 times 3, I get 420, and I know that because I know that 14 times 3 is 42. And then when I subtract that, I get 0. So I'm essentially done, and my answer is 3.0, which of course is just 3. All right, so on the try it problems, let's do one together. Make sure that you're writing this down. We're going to figure out how many groups of 1 4/10 are in, we're going to do C, 128 8/10. Okay, so again, I don't want to have a decimal in my divisor, and I want to get rid of it. So to get rid of this, I have to move it one place, which is multiplying by 10. If I multiply 1 4/10 by 10, then I have to multiply the dividend by 10. And so now my decimal gets moved right to here. I move it up, and I'm going to place it right here. Now I'm looking at this as 14, and this is 1,288. So I want to ask myself, how many groups of 14 are in 1,288? Okay, so let's take a look at the 14s here. I could count by 14. Sometimes I do that when I'm dividing. 14 times 1, 14 times 2, 14 times 3. If I do 14 times 9, 14 times 9 is 126. So it got me really close to 128. You guys, please remember that you should be recording this 9 above the 8 because you're showing that it's 14 into 128. I'm noticing some people are recording this 9 or this number on top above the wrong number, which is going to really throw off your answer because it's going to appear as if you're not done dividing. When I subtract here, I end up with 2 leftovers, and I bring down the 8. And now I'm going to ask myself how many groups of 14 are in 28. 2, of course. 2 times 14 is 28. And I subtract, and I am left with nothing, no remainders. So my answer is 92. All right. So you guys, this is going to take some practice to really get our minds thinking about division again. So what I'd like you to do is get to page 18, 19, and 20 and do the problems that I have posted on your assignment in Canvas. It's right here, but I'm going to go ahead and post it. Thanks, everybody.